Assalamu alaikum and good morning. It's a Monday morning and congratulations on the birth of our 12th Imam. May Allah hasten his reappearance.
Beautiful, and that's right. And actually, it's also a great time to do as many mustahab acts in this month of Sha'ban so that we are blessed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's many blessings in this holy month, such as charity, doing dhikr, ziyarahs and du'as as much as possible, as there's many benefits to reap during this time. It is the closest to Ramadan, holy month of Ramadan, in the benefits and virtues it brings.
Of course. Lots of you have sent in your photos celebrating the auspicious occasion. These photos are from London, and many of those are also conducting majalis and programs in their own homes.
Quite a busy time for you as well,
yes,
Brother Ali.
Yes, it is.
Those cakes look fantastic and celebrations are wonderful. There is so much barakah in this month and celebrating family and friends on the birth of our Imam of our time. May Allah hasten his reappearance and may we always strive to serve him, inshallah.
Inshallah. So many more wonderful days of Sha'ban to look forward to and gain the rewards of. And we also have a lot to look forward to on Morning Baraka. This morning we have Sayyid Jalal, as always, in the studio with our Holy Quran recitation with ayahs from Surah Mu'minun.
Straight after that, we have Brother Ibrahim Ansari on the couch with daily du'as, which include beautiful recitations and explanation. Today is the du'a for the middle of the night of Sha'ban.
We also have psychotherapist Sister Baraka dropping by to discuss a very important topic which affects a lot of youngsters in our community, and that is bipolar disorder.
A lot to learn there. Today we also have your health questions and queries answered by Dr. Yasser Madani with information on common cough and colds, and that's really good to know.
Of course. We also have your fiqh questions and queries answered by our very own Sayyid Ali Nawab with living in a religious and non-religious country. How does it work?
And for competition details, please stay tuned with Brother Mustafa Khatib.
The holy city of Karbala is home to tragedies, heartbreak, as well as treasures and wonders. Millions from around the world come to this sacred city with their prayers and tears. As well as being home to Imam Hussein Media Group, it's the home and resting place of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his brother Abu Fadhil Abbas alayhum as-salam. Imam Hussein sacrificed his life for the sake of truth and preservation of the religion and teachings of his grandfather Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Imam Baraka says, order our Shia to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, since doing so increases sustenance, extends life, removes evil, and that visiting the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a duty upon every believer who believes in Imamat from Allah Almighty. So we invite you to come to Karbala and come to visit your Imam and perform ziyarah. Unfortunately, not everyone can come visit Imam Hussein. Not everyone has the ability or opportunity to visit regularly, and that's why Morning Baraka is giving you the opportunity to perform ziyarah from your very homes. We want you to send in your du'as and names of your loved ones so we can recite the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on their behalf. Maybe you have a loved one whose name you want to put forward, a marhum who would benefit, or maybe you miss Karbala and yearn to see Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him. Why not send a small message or a dua for us to read here in the holy city of Karbala? Whoever's name you put, whatever dua or small message you have, the Morning Baraka team will pass it on to our team here in Karbala, and we will recite the ziyarah, read the message, and broadcast it on Imam Hussein TV3. Send in your names, du'as, and small messages to Morning Baraka at @imamhussein.tv, or messages or leave a comment on any of our social media platforms. We look forward to hearing from you, and may Allah and the Ahlul Bayt accept all of our a'mal and our ziyarah, inshallah.
Yes, welcome back. We are now going to be joined by Sayyid Jalal Masoumi, who will be kickstarting the program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. Sayyid Jalal, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I believe that you're going to be reciting from Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 1 to 14.
Yes, inshallah, I'm going to recite these verses.
So, Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون. والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون. والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين. والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين. فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون. والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون. والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون. الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون. ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرج محمد وآل محمد.
Many thanks for your time, Sayyid Jalal Ma'soumi, once again for an amazing recitation of the Holy Quran. For the benefit of the viewers, just in case they didn't catch the beginning, he was reciting from Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 1 to 14. So many thanks for your time there, Sayyid Jalal. In this part of the show, we are taking a deep dive into the du'as, the supplications, the ziyaras associated with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and it being the mid of Sha'ban, so we've already celebrated the heroes of Karbala, and now we're celebrating the birth of Imam Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajul sharif, and here to join us to shed light on some of the ziyaras or the supplications associated with Imam Mahdi is Ibrahim al-Ansari.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for giving me the chance.
No worries at all.
How are you?
I'm doing well, we're doing okay.
I'm doing good, thank you.
I stayed there for a second. I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I was like, oh yes.
Yeah. So I've given you the chance to say to say salam first.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much.
And on these blessed nights, inshallah, your du'as and our viewers as well, they're all accepted, and so we're looking forward to today's subject.
Yes.
Inshallah.
So would you like to?
So the night of the Wilada of Imam Mahdi, the Imam of our time, where you want to start when talking about him, I'm not sure. Do you want to talk about just the Imam himself? It's when you realize that it is because of him that we are living today. It is because of his blessings that the earth is stable at the moment. If he wasn't on this earth, the earth would not be stable, the earth would vanish, we wouldn't be here as human beings, we would not be granted blessings. If it wasn't for his du'as, we wouldn't be breathing right now. And it's when you realize that it is Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam, ajala ta'ala farjah sharif, and it is him that is actually the cause for every breath and for every heartbeat, that then we need to remember that it is him we should thank as well. I don't know why there tends to be this thing of where we tend to turn a blind eye to the Imam of our time just because we cannot see him with the naked eye. Whereas he is with us, he's possibly with us in this room right now. And in fact, we even have certain names of the Imam that if you say them, that it is said that the Imam will enter the room. So there's a specific name if you say it, which is why the whole idea of putting our hands on our head when mentioning him, it is usually, they say it is not always when you mention that you must do this, but when you mention that specific name, because he enters the room, meaning he is there. We have in different occasions, such as on the day of Ashura, we have many scholars who have said that they have seen Imam al-Mahdi in Karbala, specifically in Rakdat al-Tuwairij. When they jog from Tuwairij is not a city, it's a qarya.
Town?
Yeah, like a little
A
town,
village.
a village that they come from towards Karbala, and they come jogging towards. Many say that he is there. Many say
And they've been
he is
doing
there.
that for centuries, haven't they? Since
Yes.
the event of Karbala, because that's the tribe that.
They have been doing it for a
Yeah.
very long time. During the walk of Arba'in, Imam al-Mahdi is there. During Hajj, Imam
Do you know,
al-Mahdi
I was
is
going
there.
to say that to you because in Arafah, if there's one guarantee that he is anywhere, is on the day of Arafah,
Yeah.
and that is what makes Hajj so beautiful
Yeah.
because you know amongst that crowd of people somewhere he is here, and it's and I
amazing.
often think, is it His blessing that Allah says your sins are guaranteed to be forgiven on the day of Arafah, and you think His mercy is encompassing on that day as well, that He's
Definitely.
present, and maybe His presence is blessing us. So
No, most definitely. His
Yeah.
presence is nothing but a blessing towards
Absolutely.
us. Literally nothing but a blessing towards us. Because if we say that a blessing is us living, then we are saying, and we say that Imam Mahdi is the reason we are living, we are saying that he is the reason for our blessing. He is the reason for our life. He is the reason why we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is there as the one who carries on the message from the prophets and the imams and make sure that it will last until the end of time.
do you think, so if people who, you know, we can look at the way that the shrines are, that the ones that have the sort of more prominence and you know, physical, you know, build up, they are regularly visited and, you know, things like that, and the ones that perhaps we don't see much, people don't feel such an affiliation. But now that in his ghaiba, people struggle to build a connection with him, and how would you say would be the best way to keep him, you know, as alive as he is in our everyday lives?
One way is what we have been doing for many episodes now, which is through dua. Likewise with Imam Mahdi, we can make dua. Another thing is that if we realize that he is still alive, we must have direct conversation with him. When we are talking to Imam al-Mahdi, yes, we might not hear a response, but trust me that if, inshallah, one day we can reach such a level of iman and taqwa, we will end up being able to hear a response. We have, for example, we have Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari, who is one of the best and top maraja' that have ever come, to the extent where that today a marja' cannot become a marja' unless they have studied his books. He is buried by Bab al-Qibla in Najaf al-Ashraf, of the Bab al-Qibla of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One might ask, why is he buried there? They say that whenever he came to visit Amir al-Mu'mineen, he would stand at that exact spot and he would send his salams to Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he will not enter the shrine unless he hears a response. Because of this stage that he has reached of taqwa. At one point, someone specific mentions whose great-grandfather at that time was in charge of locking up the shrine. He mentions that one day after my grandfather has locked up the shrine, that I heard someone crying and weeping by the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I said, I've looked up every single door. How did this person enter? And then he opened the shrine, he walked in, and he realized that Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari is there. Then he said, by no doubt, the Imam has allowed him to enter. So by building this connection, by allowing us to have taqwa towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can only gain that through the Imams. So having direct conversations with the Imam, telling him how our day went. So for example, sometimes we have a very close friend, or a wife or a husband, and once we sit together, we might talk and we say, so I woke up and this is what I done throughout the day, work went like this, school, this happened, at university I passed my exam, whatever it may be. Why do we not have this conversation with Imam Mahdi, who loves us dearly? So for example, one of the scholars, he says that one of the best things to do is that after Salat al-Fajr, when you're done with Salat al-Fajr, sit down on your prayer mat and talk with Imam Mahdi. Talk freely.
That's amazing.
Oh Imam, today I'm going to do this. Yesterday this happened. I'm thinking of going on holiday, and inshallah you can bless me. Inshallah, just talk to
Build
him
that-
as if he is there in
build
front
the
of you.
relationship.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
this is the best way of building a relationship with Imam Mahdi, other than of course always making sure to put out sadaqah in his name as well.
I think there's his position is very, obviously if we actually imagined having an imam present, it's not something that we would take lightly, like you're saying we touch our heads in respect to him. But I think that it is one of the imams that, for instance, when you go to Karbala, you go to Najaf, you have the shrines there. But Imam is, we really have to work on ourselves to really understand who are we presenting ourselves to, because he gets our deeds on a Friday. He sees what we do, and are we really making him proud? Are we really doing what we do for the sake of his reappearance? And it's not just to prove to others. It's really, what are we doing inside of ourselves, making ourselves better people, so that he looks at us and thinks, yes, this is my follower.
We need to remember something as well. At the end of the day, we as followers of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim as-salatu was-salam, we as people who claim to follow Imam Mahdi, we have a specific role in this world, which is being the ambassadors of the Imam.
Definitely.
And being the ambassador of the Imam does not mean I recite Quran, I recite dua, I go to mosque. No, being the ambassador of the Imam means when I walk on the street, I know how to walk on the street.
Yes.
When I talk to my colleagues, I know how to talk to my colleagues.
Definitely.
Just out of
Beautiful
benefit
point.
for the time as well, I'd love to kind of take a deep dive into the specific dua that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
It's the dua of Laylat mid Sha'ban,
Yes.
right? So it's the dua of the night of the middle of Sha'ban.
Yes.
And the 15th of Sha'ban is when Imam Mahdi was born.
Yeah.
Alayhi afdalus salatu wa azka salam. So you've chosen two parts to this. Which part is this first?
So this is the very first part.
Okay.
The dua isn't that long. And inshallah in the next episode we can carry on the dua.
Okay.
So I'm going to go over the first part now just to recite it inshallah.
Yeah.
The next episode we can recite the end as well.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, because it's the night of the middle of Sha'ban, it's as if we are preparing ourselves to welcome his birth.
Yeah.
So in it, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم بحق ليلتنا هذه ومولودها وحجتك وموعودها التي قرنت إلى فضلها فضلا فتمت كلمتك صدقا وعدلا لا مبدل لكلماتك ولا معقب لآياتك نورك المتألق وضياؤك المشرق والعلم النور في طخياء الديجور الغائب المستور جل مولده وكرم محتده والملائكة شهده والله ناصره ومؤيده إذا آن ميعاده والملائكة أمداده سيف الله الذي لا ينبو ونوره الذي لا يخبو وذو الحلم الذي لا يصبو مدار الدهر ونواميس العصر وولاة الأمر والمنزل عليهم ما يتنزل في ليلة القدر وأصحاب الحشر والناش تراجمة وحيه وولاة أمره ونهيه اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you so much.
Yeah, walk us through the significant parts of this.
So, in this dua, you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Arabic language, when we use the letter ba before something, so be and then something, it is as if you are swearing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, oh Allah, I swear to you, by this, allow this to happen. Or it's as if you are performing qasam towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah, so for example, when you say Allahumma bi Fatimata wa abiha, oh Allah, by Fatima and her father, allow this to happen. Here, to show the significance of this night, you're saying Allahumma bihaqqi laylatina hadhi. Oh Allah, by this specific night. So imagine how many blessings there are in this night, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling that the infallibles are informing us that through this specific night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your deeds because of how blessed it is. And then it carries on, اللهم بحق ليلتنا هذه ومولودها, meaning the bihaq at the start, that by is also to the one who was born after this night, which is Imam Mahdi. Of course, his status is much greater for us than to describe. وحجتك وموعودها التي قرنت إلى فضلها فضلا. Here, when it says التي قرنت إلى فضلها فضلا, some people have an issue. They say it is talking about Imam al-Mahdi. Why is it saying التي, talking feminine? Because it's not talking about Imam Mahdi. You are swearing by the night and by the one who was born in this night, meaning everything is reference to what? Towards the night. Nothing is in reference towards Imam Mahdi here. So even when mentioning the Imam Mahdi, you're mentioning him in reference to the night. So here also you're saying that the night is قَرَنْتَ إِلَى فَضْلِهَا فَضْلًا, which if you were to translate, you would say it has such a favor. When you say قَرَنْتَ إِلَى فَضْلِهَا فَضْلًا, which means that on top of the favor there is a greater favor. Again, to describe the blessings of the night. Then it carries on to talk about the night itself. And then it says فَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَتُكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا, that your word is truthful and it is comes from adala, it is right. And then from there, after it talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His creation, such as نورك المتألق, your light, and ضياؤك المشرق والعلم النور في and then after that it goes to carry on to Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. When it comes back to Imam al-Mahdi, it is you asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him support and to get him to come on the promised day, to allow the angels to be amongst his troops. And we know that this is not the first time. Even in the battle of Badr, for example, that the only way the Muslims won was through the angels.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He wants to show blessings upon a specific troop, He sends the angels to allow them to be victorious. And therefore, in another way, you're saying, oh Allah, allow the Imam to be victorious and allow him to have loyal companions. And of course, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be amongst His companions as well.
And that's a beautiful end to this segment. Thank you so much for your time, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Yeah, definitely God bless you. And once again, congratulations to the Muslim world on the birth of Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Faraj Sharif. Stay tuned. After the break, we're going to be joined by Baraka Hussein as well as Zahra in the specialist segment. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, dear viewers. I hope you enjoyed the session we just had with Brother Ibrahim Al-Ansari. Another revitalizing start to the day. So swiftly moving on, we are now going to go into the discussions which I've personally enjoyed over the weeks that we've had regarding mental health and really removing some of the stigmas and misunderstanding that a lot of us have misconceptions about certain conditions that people will suffer. And, you know, these are people we may come in through our everyday life. So to join me, as ever, is Sister Zahra Hussein from Canada. She is a psychotherapist, and you can find her on social media under the name of the Muslim Counselor. So join me in welcoming Sister Zahra Hussein. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. I'm well, yourself?
I'm good, thank you. This morning's discussion we're going to have is something I remember from my childhood, of hearing of someone's diagnosis of bipolar disorder,
right,
but never understanding what the different phases in this meant and the highs. I'd hear of, you know, words such as, she's got highs and, you know, a manic stage, and it would never make sense in my, you know, my terminology. No one explained. So what is bipolar, and does it differ from depression and other conditions that we more commonly hear about?
So this is more of a serious mental health disorder, along the lines of where psychologists and psychiatrists will deal with.
Okay.
And so a psychiatrist is a medical doctor who deals with psychiatric issues, so they can diagnose, they can prescribe and treat. A psychologist is somebody who has a PhD, so they're called a doctor, but they're not medical doctors.
Yeah.
So they can diagnose but cannot prescribe medication.
Right.
But they're more specialized, right? And then you also have medical doctors who can do therapy, meaning they can diagnose, assess, and treat with medication. So I don't personally deal in terms of treatment with these clients, but I offer support with clients who are dealing with this disorder. So I'll tell you what I know from the clients.
But that's a very critical stage, because only thinking through what stages we go through in you know, diagnosis, and people go through diagnosis, doctors don't have the time to give us the support to say, well, actually, how are you dealing with this condition? So your role is very pivotal in the cycle of even the diagnosis, treatment, and
absolutely,
and how you're providing.
And we're a team. Like, for example, where I work in a medical clinic, and we have psychiatrists. We have medical doctors that do diagnosis and mental health assessments. And then there are the therapists, the counselors, or the social workers who will do the actual groundwork in terms of the sessions. But the other doctors, that's not to say they won't do that either, depending.
Right, okay.
But so that's the case. It's a teamwork effort to help the clients. So the clients will identify from previous diagnosis when they come see us, or they describe certain behaviors, and they say, I think I'm bipolar, or and I'm like, I'd say, maybe they're dealing with this, and so I would refer them to the doctor to get a proper assessment so that we know next what to do. So you described highs, lows, manic, so a person who's experiencing a high, or they're in their manic stage or phase, is when they are in that state of excitement. They feel they're on top of the world. They're very energetic, and they feel they can do so much. They speak very quickly. They're very hyper, and I've witnessed that from of people, and we didn't know what was going on with them, and at the time, and it does give the appearance of somebody who is a little out there, so to speak, right? And sometimes people don't know how to deal. Others don't know how to deal with somebody who's experiencing that high, that when they're in their manic stage.
Are they aware they're in that manic stage?
If they're diagnosed and they're they're getting the proper treatment, they would be aware. But those who are undiagnosed, we don't know what's going on, they're labeled as crazy. There's something wrong with them. They're awkward, socially awkward. We don't know how to connect with these people, right? And we have people in our community, sometimes we wonder what's wrong with them, why are they behaving this way? Sometimes it could be a thyroid issue, by the way. It has a huge impact on our hormones, which then has an impact on the way you deal with emotions, right? So this is how sometimes people could be on their high. People who then experience the low, or the depressive mode, it's very similar to when you're dealing with depression. That's why it's called bipolar. You can go from one extreme of the high, the excitement and the energy, to very low depression. So slow talking, and slow movement, and perhaps not taking care of their health in a good way. Low energy in terms of not feeling motivated, right? Low motivation, not getting work done. So it's the opposite. That's why it's the polarity right there. Now, what's good news about people who are struggling with this? There is treatment, and it's part medical as well. where medication can help balance that imbalance that people are struggling with, right?
Either the manic or the depressive
yeah.
state, right?
Sometimes people say, oh, I feel so flat. You know, I feel, but then the medication, some people, it works great for them in terms of them being functional and, you know, having their emotions managed in a way, because it is a chemical imbalance in this case, right?
Okay.
It's a psychiatric disorder.
Do they have, how long do the periods of each, if they have a manic stage or a...
I can't give you a number.
It
It really
doesn't give,
depends.
yeah.
Everybody's different in terms of how they experience it. It could
Right.
be triggering as well, right? It could be different incidences. Stressors could trigger them a certain way. So it's very individual.
So what do you, in your line of work then, how do you help them specifically in what their condition is? Because obviously they have the medical side, but in the support that you're providing, what do you do?
Yeah, so we look at strategies, coping strategies. When you're on your high, how can you balance that a little bit better? What work can you get done? What can you do?
Yeah.
Don't make big decisions during that time as well. So looking at coping strategies, whether they're on their high or their low.
Right.
Also talking about how they can ask for support.
Yeah.
Letting people know, because like I said, you know, the side glance, so what is this person? Why are they
Yeah.
behaving this way?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So we look at social skills and how they can connect with people around them and explain to them, this is what I'm experiencing, you know, how can we work through that?
That must be quite difficult to have to explain to people and almost like justifying that, okay, I may act a bit differently, that don't judge me in that term. So how can they actually get people's, you know, softer understanding that, you know,
they're not going to be able to please everybody. Just accept that too. Maybe there's just a few people that they can trust, you know, to let that. Yeah. Now I've experienced some people in their manic stage where the behavior was bizarre, and to the untrained eye, people are put off. They don't know how to connect with somebody like that, right? But if this person can reach out to some people that they trust,
Yeah.
then they can ask for support and say, hey, when I'm like this,
yeah.
please don't take it personally. This is what I need from you as a friend, and just to, you know, get compassion and understanding. Again, just keep in mind, not everybody will accept that.
It's very difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, to go through, and then what are the coping strategies when they're the opposite, in their depressive state, where they're not motivated? What do you do to sort of get them to perhaps get tasks completed and things like that?
So again, being aware that if you are a student, you are at work, perhaps talk to your boss or your professors in terms of just letting them know where you are right now. And most people are very supportive if you do let them know. And the strategies we specifically work on are just like we would somebody who's dealing with depression. Make sure you're eating well, sleeping well, exercise, have good supports around you, spiritual balance, good friends, network, but also work on making sure you have your routine to fall back on. If you are taking medication, make sure you're taking it daily around the same time, and so on and so forth.
And are they, when they are in their depressive state, can they get to that extreme where we've previously spoken about suicidal thoughts? Do they get to that? Can they get that
Absolutely,
low? Oh, goodness.
absolutely. Remember, we said extremes here, and this is the far extreme.
Yeah.
Some people could be very well motivated to do that because they no longer want to feel the lows of the low. So it's really important to have that support in place, the phone calls ready to call, you know, phone lines or crisis centers. You know, they're commonly seen in the emergency ward, along with other people who struggle, for example, from borderline personality disorder, which also has highs and lows and threats of suicide.
What's that, though?
Oh, that is that's a very strange one, and it's common in our communities, believe it or not.
Right.
And we see it mostly in men, borderline personality, and it's exhibited with aggression and abuse sometimes, and violence, and constantly threatening to leave their partners, narcissistic tendencies. It's very abusive. And it's people who are not aware of that will blame, you know, the culture. Oh, Arab men, for example, are just like that. Or, you know, that's just this personality. That he grew up in such a household, or he grew up in a household of abuse, and he's mimicking the cycle. But sometimes it's not just your environmental factors that influence you. There is this underlying personality disorder, just like bipolar. That's one of the hardest personality disorders to treat. BPD, borderline. There's a special treatment for it called DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and they're specialized programs and trainers in this field because it's so common. But within our community, you know, rarely would you find men who are behaving this way in their household would admit to getting help like this because they blame it. Another thing with BPD is they gaslight. They will project their illness onto other people, their partners. It's your fault. I did this because it's your fault. You made me do this. It very much mimics an abusive relationship.
Wow.
And a lot of men who are abusive, rather, a lot of men who show these behaviors are abusive. They are in an abusive relationship with their partner. It's, like I said, very difficult.
Tricky, isn't it?
It's very difficult. And because they will project their illness onto everybody around them, they will not take responsibility. They will not admit that they have a problem. And then so you see these households in chaos because of the borderline issues there.
And is that quite easy to diagnose or not easy to?
It's not, because there's a variety of signs that are shown, and there's a book called Stop Walking on Eggshells. Forget the author, Kruger, I believe. Yes, and this is an excellent book as a guide to help those who are living with people like that, on how to deal, how to cope, how to manage, how to separate, how to put boundaries around you, and how, if you cannot stay, what to do. And so there's a list that they go through in terms of, if this person has 5 out of 9 of these things, they fit into this category. I have students who come in and they talk about relationships. All right. I know we were talking about bipolar, but we moved. This is another personality disorder, which is very common, and we need to talk about this because it has devastated households. And so I will have this person describe to me their partner, and then for me it's like, oh, this sounds familiar. So I'll go through that list with them. They're like, yes, they threatened to leave me. Yes, they threatened to do this. Yes, they have addictive natures, whether it's pornography, alcohol, other addictions, it's there. They're constantly threatening to kill themselves. They are projecting onto me that they never take responsibility for their attitude and their problems. They blame me. So there's a whole list, and then when I hear that from my clients, like, oh, hold on. It sounds like you were in this situation. My advice, which is when I've researched this a lot, because I had to deal with it personally in my life, and we've been trained in our center because we've seen so many students who've experienced this. The advice that I've read from people is say, get out. The sooner you can get out of this relationship, the better for you, because it is a crazy making disorder. It will make you believe that you are losing your mind and crazy because that person has the manipulative power in projection.
Is this an actual disorder, or is it something that
it is
somebody has really mastered manipulative behavior?
It could be that they're diagnosable in the DSM-4. I think we're on the 5 now, I forget, which is our medical manual for diagnosing mental illnesses and whatnot. It is in there. It is in there, but
scary though,
but
isn't
it is. But like I said, this is so common in our community, and we look at it as this is an abusive situation, but there's underlying illnesses as well.
And what's the treatment for that particular sort of?
If the person can admit,
I mean, the person that's the other person that needs to get out can get out, but what would happen to this person and to prevent them from ruining other lives? What would be sort of, how do doctors deal with? Is it medication and?
It's like I said, it's very hard to first diagnose because the person will not admit it, right? That there's a problem with them because they're projecting their illness onto others. If they do admit, yes, there's an issue, I need to get support and help. And I've seen that in recent years. A lot of clients will come and say, I think I have BPD.
Wow.
I think I'm dealing with something. And so they're willing to get the support. There are medications to help stabilize mood. And this is where the psychiatrists come in, not me. I give support, but the psychiatrist will diagnose and work with the medical side. And so they will work on that. But there's also DBT therapy, which is designed to work with emotion regulation.
Right.
And so this is a full program, weeks on ends, where people who are willing and who want to change their ways will go through that. And again, when we talk about spirituality and religion, we're constantly striving towards bettering ourselves. And if people can admit there's something wrong here rather than blaming, which is part of the illness, you see how tricky and difficult it is. But this is where our faith comes in to help.
I mean, it's quite frightening because a lot of people go through life and spend their life blaming others for their problem. Well, actually, this happened because that person was in my life, and
not own it, not take responsibility. There's a pattern there. This illness, this disorder has destructed many families.
Goodness. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I mean that was quite
an eye opener. I would say,
only because I've sometimes heard females saying about their spouses, and
by the way, it's females too, not just males. I have to say, but it's mostly exhibited through the aggression that we see in abusive relationships with men. But women also experience this, and sometimes the men feel like my wife's crazy, my partner's crazy. What's going on? One day she loves me, one day she hates me, because there's that love-hate And there's a book on BPD where it talks, I hate you, don't leave me. You see, it's the back and forth. So it's difficult for both.
Yeah, only because I have female friends, mostly female friends, that you hear when they tell you about stories and you think that's awful what someone has to go through. And yes, as a friend, you can sort of say, you know, people will say, well, leave. But again, it's not that simple. And, you know, again, there could be family, children involved. And but yes, like you said, it can devastate families. It's really quite sad to hear that that's such a paradoxical condition, isn't it? But thank you so much.
There's support out there. If only people can get the support, then there's hope definitely for mending.
It's the first step. So first step is listening to Sister Baraka Hussein, and then second step is finding out more information, taking that step to
research. I encourage people to read more about it. Call the helplines that you have here. Connect with the resources you have at Stanmore. We have a wonderful referral program there. You have the resources. Reach out to the sources that you do have. Definitely. I wouldn't be able to do therapy, but I would be able to refer you to the resources, inshallah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Inshallah, we'll see you in another morning. I think it'll be our final morning with you in this season, which I hope you're enjoying the topic so far that we've covered. And it's sad to say that we will be having our last discussion with Dr. Yasser Madani, and we are discussing another topic. Well, let's see what we're going to be talking. Join us in a bit.
Imam Hussein Media Group is a virtual university that works on a global scale to spread the true message of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt's peace and blessings be upon them. Imam Hussein TV was established 10 years ago in the city of Isfahan, Iran. We work to cover all aspects of religion, Islamic jurisprudence, politics, philosophy, and many more, and aim to bring the public's attention to the righteous Islamic sect, Shia Islam. Our ultimate goal as a media group is to convey the interpretations of the Holy Quran, as well as the traditions and knowledge of the Holy Prophet and his progeny, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon them. Our objectives are to protect and safeguard the Shia youth from the destructive impact of immoral ideologies, standing up against injustice by documenting the oppression of Shia across the globe, as well as encouraging peace and unity amongst the Muslims. To reach our aims and serve the Muslim Ummah, we require a budget that would cover all the expenses for our productions, allowing us to work on different projects. Imam Hussein Media Group is a crowd-funded project. We have no sales nor do we charge for our services. We solely rely on monthly payments, financial contributions, donations, religious alms, and generous gifts. The expenses of each production varies depending on the type of project and the style of filming. There are many elements to a production that requires time and capital. The producer must analyze the costs of the venue hire, equipment, transport, feature fees, set design, staff support, and further additional costs. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, narrated, "The best of people is he from whom people benefit." It is up to you to help the Muslim Ummah come together and help guide the youth in remaining on the correct path of Islam. To take part in this global conquest and to spread the message of Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him, please visit www.imamhussein3.tv or give us a call on +44 0203 515 0199. You can also contact us via WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, or even email us on donate@imamhussein.tv. Let's work together hand in hand to elevate the faith of our Shia youth today.
Welcome back, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, to the Morning Baraka Show. Hopefully your mornings are blissful. We are focusing on the anatomy of the lungs, specifically with our resident expert within this field, Dr. Sayyid Yasser Madani. Thank you so much for your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for joining us again.
Pleasure.
So this time of year, I'm sure you probably see a lot in your clinic, coughs, colds, flus, influenza, all of that sort of unpleasantly things happening to people. So this morning we're going to talk about coughs and sort of other infections that we can get following on from that. So really when we should be concerned, what symptoms are, what sort of perhaps treatments are, and causes. So what really, I mean, coughs we can all get sort of quite minor here and then, we don't really think much of it. When is it sort of a cause for concern, and what are the common causes for it?
Sure. So we talked about in a previous episode about lung infections and influenza. Although in most cases influenza doesn't cause a lung infection, it's just kind of upper airway and throat. Pneumonia we talked about in previous episodes. So infections are one of the commonest causes of a cough, of an acute, short-lived episode of coughing. A common cold can cause a cough. And actually most of these are viral infections. And many people sit hours and hours waiting for a GP appointment, or waiting in the GP waiting room for an emergency appointment, taking up an emergency appointment in the GP surgery, which is so valuable. Or waiting in A&E to either see the GP in the urgent care centre or the walk-in centre, or A&E. And they're waiting for something, like as if there's a magic wand. And there isn't, actually. These are viruses, bacteria, antibiotic do not work for viruses. So they come out disappointed, and some people even think that their GP knows nothing, or their doctor, any doctor knows nothing, because they've not given them treatment. And actually, antibiotics are for bacterial infections. They're not for viral infections. They don't have any effect on the viral infections. There is no agent that kills viruses. It's a self-limiting illness. It will die on its own. But we spent quite a significant amount of time in one of the previous episodes where we talked about common colds and influenza, about treatment. So we're not going to repeat treatments about that. So infections are probably one of the commonest causes of coughs, short-term.
So what happens
acute.
then? Is it sort of like, you can sometimes feel that trickle going down the back of your throat. Is it irritating?
So that trickle is slightly different that you're talking, and I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because most people don't know about that. And when you have a runny nose, and again, people can have runny nose acutely, short-lived because of virus, common cold, or actually long-term for other conditions, allergic rhinitis, we call it, hay fever, etc. But you can also have mucus going back down the throat the other way. It's called post-nasal drip, the other way, and that can trickle down into the throat and cause a cough. And that post-nasal drip is a common cause of a cough, actually, even a chronic cough. So the way I explain to my patients who come to me having had a chronic cough, by chronic cough, we mean a cough that's been there for more than 6 weeks. So by the time the GP refers them to us, actually they've had it for months. Because the GP will often do an X-ray in the first instance, do some blood test, start an inhaler, give antibiotics, etc. So the common causes are lung problems, so either scarring, and we've not yet touched on scarring conditions, probably won't do because they're not very common, relatively speaking, compared to infections, asthma, smoking-related lung conditions. So scarring conditions of the lung, smoking-related lung disease, asthma, lung diseases essentially are a cause of cough. All right. Number two, things that are, and the rest of the causes are nothing to do with the lungs. So problems up here, especially in the nose and the sinuses. All right, when you have inflammation there, rhinosinusitis or rhinitis. For that reason, when you've got mucus going back down the throat, that can cause a build-up of mucus in the throat. And especially in the mornings, people wake up and clear their throat. Actually, that phlegm is not coming from the chest, it's coming from the throat. It's just accumulated overnight. So rhinitis needs to be treated in order for the cough to be to go. The third is reflux. So by reflux, I'm talking about gastroesophageal reflux, or the common symptom of which is heartburn. So from your stomach, you have a sphincter, you have a ring that sits at the bottom of the esophagus, of the gullet, the food pipe, and it connects it's at the junction between the food pipe and the stomach. That sphincter should be relaxed after you've eaten and the stomach has food in it. I beg your pardon, should be tightened so that food doesn't go back up. If food goes up because it's too relaxed, then you can get heartburn. And as that acid or whatever travels up, it can cause a sore throat. It can cause
irritation,
throat clearing, which is different to cough. This sensation of throat clearing, or a sensation of globus, which is something, a scratch or a lump in the throat.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So actually, people can have silent reflux without heartburn, and we still don't know much about it, but we think it's gaseous material rather than acid traveling up and causing these things. Our understanding of reflux is changing, and in fact, some people argue that it's actually not the thing traveling up the gullet that's causing the cough. It's actually sitting in the lower esophagus that's stimulating the vagus nerve, and that's causing the cough. Okay. Whatever the mechanism is, that is a cause of chronic cough. And fourthly, the larynx, the voice box. Any irritation of the larynx is more sensitive. Some people, for some reason, we talked about asthma in the last episode. Some people have sensitive airways. Some people can have sensitive larynx. It's a nightmare for a reciter.
It is, yeah, 100%.
And people, you and I, if someone sprays some perfume, etc., bleach, detergents, house products, whatever, we're not going to be coughing and coughing and coughing. But for some people, they tend to be more sensitive to these environmental triggers, and their larynx, when they breathe in, their larynx gets irritated and they cough and cough. So the causes of cough anatomically can be divided into lung problems, esophageal problems, nose and throat problems, and laryngeal or voice box larynx problems.
Yeah. So I remember a few weeks ago, Ali was saying about how he became ill and then the cough was persistent and so on and so forth. So when symptoms sort of a flu, cold diminish, why does a cough linger for weeks and weeks?
That's a very good question. So you have to think about what else is going on. Is it one of those 4 categories? So that's why whenever we meet people with chronic cough, we ask them, do you have nasal symptoms? Do you have throat symptoms? Do you have heartburn, etc.? But actually we know that another common cause of cough is a post-infectious inflammation of the airways. Okay. So after you've had a chest infection or after you've had a cold, which may or may not have affected the a bronchitis, you can get a cough for a few weeks, actually sometimes even up to 6 weeks. That's a benign disorder. Generally speaking, that's nothing to worry about, and it will settle with time. Things to think about. There are some red flags that we need to think about. We've talked about red flags a lot in previous episodes. And if you have a chronic cough lasting for several weeks, we say 3 weeks or more, and you have some of these red flags, you should see your GP. So if you're coughing up blood, you should see your GP. If you're losing weight, if you have night sweats or fever or weight or shivering, because another cause of cough is tuberculosis, TB. All right, TB is not a dead disease.
No.
Yeah, TB unfortunately has come back,
Really?
in the last few decades, and it's very common in London. Some people say some parts of London, such as Newham in East London, Tower Hamlets, in West London, Harrow and Brent, actually have very similar prevalence of TB compared to Mumbai in India. All right, so TB is actually very common in London. Shouldn't be underestimated. If you've ever come into contact with anyone that has TB, that is known to have TB, you need to go and seek to see someone, because you need to be screened to see if you have either active TB or latent TB. I'm not going to talk about that too much. But certainly if you have other red flags such as coughing up blood, weight loss, loss of appetite, fever, night sweats, you may have TB. Conversely, if you have been a heavy smoker for many years, coughing up blood, losing weight, then lung cancer is a cause, and you need to see someone for that. As we mentioned previously, not all lung cancer is due to smoking or is in smokers. So you can still have lung cancer in non-smokers. So again, if you have these red flag symptoms, if you become breathless with a cough, you should also seek help, because then that points more to a lung problem rather than problem up here.
So just going back to the sort of the common cold, flu, influenza, in terms of the vaccines associated with that, can you tell us a bit more about that?
So just taking a step back, prevention of these things. So we can't cure influenza, but prevention. We talked about simple hand hygiene, right? Cough or sneeze into a tissue, throw that tissue, wash your hand. When you're unwell, avoid being in contact with people that are high risk group, which we're going to talk about again now, and stay away from people who have the flu if you're well. Same for chest infection, generally speaking. So hygiene, number one. Number two, don't smoke. If you can, don't smoke. And anyone can. There's no compulsion to smoking, like anything in life. So if you are smoking, give up, because if you are a smoker, you're at higher risk of getting a pneumonia and getting complications of pneumonia, or having a poor outcome, and likewise with influenza as well. Third thing, vaccinations. So very good question. Who's eligible for vaccination? Really important to talk about vaccinations, because vaccinations can save lives. Right. Now, one thing to bear in mind is a vaccination cannot prevent every infection. So we've got two main vaccinations that I'm talking about. One is the pneumococcal vaccine, and one is the influenza vaccine. As for the pneumococcal vaccine, for both of those vaccines, certain people will be eligible for it. So not everyone is eligible for it. You may be able to get it privately, which you have to pay for. That's another topic, and that's fine. But the NHS will fund the vaccine in certain high-risk groups. So for pneumonia vaccine, it will protect against streptococci pneumoniae, which is one of the most common bacteria that causes pneumonia. There's two main types of vaccines. One is the one that is used in people over 65, and other people that have chronic lung problems and chronic medical problems. And the other one is used in infants. Now, there are, again, various types of strains, so it may not protect against all strains of pneumonia. And it's embedded within the vaccination program for infants. All right, so all infants will have the pneumococcal vaccine. As for people who are eligible for the pneumonia vaccine and the influenza vaccine, anyone above this 65 or above, because they're more at risk of having a poor outcome if they develop complications of either of the two. Number two, anyone with chronic medical problems such as chronic liver disease, chronic kidney disease, chronic lung disease, chronic heart disease, or chronic failure of any of these organs. Anyone who is immunosuppressed. By immunosuppressed, I mean has a weakened immune system, whether because they have a condition that weakens their immune system, or they take medications that weaken their immune system. Medications such as steroids, long-term steroids, for example, or chemotherapy for cancer, that attacks the body's immune system, and that will render them at high risk of getting infections, any infection, including pneumonia and influenza. So these people should have the influenza vaccine.
Eligibility?
Say again?
Eligibility? Did you mention that?
These are the people
Okay.
these are the eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
For So anyone who has, from our purpose, from the lung point of view,
Yeah.
anyone that has a chronic lung problem such as COPD, asthma, bronchiectasis, etc., we recommend their GPs to administer the pneumococcal vaccine and an annual influenza vaccine.
Just as a last point, because we've literally got a minute left. I work in the NHS, and a lot of people say it has caused them. The flu jab has caused them a variant of flu. Is that true?
So it's not possible, because the flu jab is not a live attenuated, it's not a live vaccine. All right, so it's impossible for the flu jab to cause flu, but it can make people feel unwell. Most people don't feel unwell, and they think those symptoms of being unwell are the flu, and they're not. Unfortunately, it can cause an ache locally where the jab is given. It can cause people to feel general. It can cause a fever. So people don't have the flu jab when they're unwell. If they've had a fever, they won't be given the flu jab. They have to get over that illness, that cold or whatever, and then when they're better, they can have the flu jab. And it applies to people that have a lung infection as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, very, very informative, and I'm sure I was just thinking for the viewers as well. If you do have any questions or queries, or you want to challenge Dr. Yasser on certain aspects, I'm sure within the medical field, there's difference of opinion and everything like that. But we'll take for granted that what you're saying is gospel, and anyone else who wants to challenge that, that's up to you.
We don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I would have liked to. We don't have time. It's just you were saying about the flu and antibiotics that don't work. But then, what if your phlegm is green? And are there certain signs that you should be having antibiotics?
Unfortunately, the green phlegm is not a great discriminator. Now, in practice, people that have green phlegm on top of a pre-existing lung condition such as COPD or asthma, we tend to give them antibiotics, because if we don't, and they do have a bacterial infection that doesn't get treated, actually they could do badly. But for a healthy individual, If they've got very typical viral symptoms, runny nose, sore throat, achy all over, etc., just a green phlegm isolated is not enough to require antibiotics. However, if it's a persistent green phlegm for, let's say, more than 3 or 5 days, or they have breathlessness, then we'll probably be inclined to give antibiotics. Because some people, because their immune system is busy fighting the virus, they can get a bacterial infection on top.
Right.
But in most people, actually, they won't need antibiotics.
Okay,
Thank you so much. That was.
So on that note, it's quite sad to say that it's our final episode with Dr. Yasser. It's been absolutely insightful time with him. I've learned so much more. I've rolled back the years to my biology classes or the GCSE science classes when it comes to the respiratory system in the lungs.
You are an expert.
I'm now more or less an expert in the lungs and everything associated with the lungs.
Amazing,
so it's been great. So thank you very, very much, Dr. Yasser. Any final thoughts? Maybe?
No, I mean, I hope it's been useful for the viewers. I hope that it's not just been sciencey, but it's actually been practical about what they can do. We've touched on common things, when to go to the GP, some red flag symptoms.
Definitely.
You know, one of the key messages I want to get out there is, you know, if you are a smoker, please try to stop. It's very doable. It's very practical. And try not to start if you're not a smoker, because it's a really bad habit. It's addictive, and it has so many bad effects. That's probably the strongest message I would like to get out there.
I think definitely with how you've explained the kind of diseases that we can develop, infections that can happen, and you're more prone once if you're a smoker. I think that's really something to take home and consider for people who perhaps aren't smokers and are, you know, may get drawn into it in the future, but you know, really not to, because your chance of recovery from these diseases is so much less than it's harder. So keep those lungs healthy. And God forbid, you know, later in life anything else is to develop. But thank you so much, and I'm sure it was absolutely informative to the viewers. And we hope to see you in the near future.
In more seasons to come as well.
Yeah,
hopefully. On that note, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Sayyid Yasser Madani. After the break, we're going to be joined by Sayyid Ali Nawab for some informative jurisprudential topics to discuss. So join us after the break. Thank you.
Caught for raping English girls. Remember? You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. These women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved. www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
Now we're on the final part of each show. We're really winding down to speak about some nitty-gritty details within Islam. However, they're not given that much importance, so hopefully we're going to be uncovering some topics of interest. And with us we have our esteemed guest, Sayyid Ali Nawab. Really appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you, Sayyid? Everything okay?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Not bad, alhamdulillah.
Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you.
We look forward to your pearls of wisdom.
So
our next topic.
So I think the topic today is religious country versus non-religious country, and of course it affects us in this room.
More immigrants or children of immigrants rather, and you know,
more so than other people. So I think it's a discussion about you know, if you're living in this society, how much do you take from the non-religious society? Do you take at all? Because I know from my parents' perspective, when they came, they had to really create a bubble around us because they feared that Western morals or values will infiltrate within their own minds and the way they think. So how much do we take from non-religious society to this society? So it's a lot to discuss, and we thank you for being here. And I guess, Zahra, in terms of a first question
let's go. We have a question actually. Somebody from Canada has written in and said, Assalamu alaikum, dear Sayyid. I've been living in Canada for 26 years and my family are planning to move back to our homeland, Iraq, as it is more religious and they believe that a religious requirement is to live in a religious city.
So it's the
Please,
issue of
can you
religious.
explain this sentiment and statement? Is it the right thing to do?
So thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for once again inviting me over to your show. MashaAllah, it's a very nice show. It's a blessing to be part of it, and inshallah we anticipate that the show benefits many, inshallah. And in this occasion, I would like to congratulate yourselves and the dear viewers for the auspicious occasion of the birth of the awaited Imam and Savior, Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. And inshallah we will be looked upon by His Eminence, and we will have him inshallah as a role model, and inshallah he will be pleased with us. In the issue of the question that this I think is a sister or a brother, I'm not sure. Regardless that they've been living in Canada for 26 years, or the same it goes for those who live in Europe, in America, here in the UK. They've grown up, or they were born in these Western societies, and once their parents reach a stage where they, because of age, because of longing to go back to the atmosphere or to the environment that they lived at the beginning of their lives, or they have family, immediate extended family back home. It's a easy decision maybe to take by the parents, but it's very difficult for the children. Why? Because they've established themselves, and they don't have that sense of belonging to the home country like the parents, whether it was Karbala, Najaf, Iraq in general, or Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, any Islamic country that their parents may be from. Of course, those who are alien to this, they might not comprehend or understand this issue, but those who are placed in that scenario, it's an issue that they have to sit down and clearly explain to their parents or to the older generation that, listen, we are settled here because we have many individuals who are part of families that migrated back or went back to their homeland and home country, Iraq or Iran, and they found out that the children were not able to cope in the new setting. And they had to make the decision to come back and start their life from all over again, which is shattering, which is very difficult for the children. Taking them from one land to another, from one country to another, from one life setting to another life setting. It's a whole total change. So here the parents, they have to think twice, because they came maybe when they were young themselves. They weren't married, and they became married in that country. And they had children, and they brought up their children. So they have to see, okay, I want to go. I love to be next to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I love to live next to Imam Ali alayhi salam. I love to be in Baghdad next to Imam Jawadain, for example. I love to go to live next to the shrine of Imam Rida. It will give me good access to the ziyarah every day, going, praying, jama'ah, this spiritual imani atmosphere. But are my children going to take it or live it from the same, or look at it from the same perspective? It is very difficult, and sometimes it could backfire. Because the child or the teenager may not be able to live or make a new start like the parents, or continue from where they left off in the Western society, in the Western country, because they will lose contact with their friends. They go to school from a young age, they grow up with their friends, they lose contact with their community, because the community here, they go visit them once a week in the local center, the local community center. They lose contact with their, for example, maybe elder siblings. They've got married, they have their own families, but they will not be, moving to their home country.
I mean, you could have somebody saying, the parents saying, well, if you move from, say, Britain to America, you're still making that change, so what's wrong with you going from here to Iraq?
Well, the atmosphere, yes.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, because people, like, I'm sure Islam will promote seeking a better life. And if that was the case, and we have to go towards a religious city, then why did the Iraqis, for example, I know it was because of war, but they could have, for example, went to Syria at the time, or they could have gone to Iran, for example, which is also has a religious. Why do they seek a better life in Europe or America or
Was it
Australia?
safety? I mean, because a lot of your families did go to Syria and Iran, didn't they?
Yeah.
But then, what was the purpose of? I mean,
Yeah, we have to go back and see what is the purpose that they moved in the first place.
Yeah.
Some did move because of financial situations. Some were not forced. They weren't violently, placed on the border of, for example, that their home country and forced and pushed out and said, okay, you don't belong here. You need to go and find yourself a new home. We have to see why they moved out. Sometimes the country that they are living in now, the Western society, the Western country that they are living now, is catering for their needs more than the country that they are planning to move to.
Yeah.
They have to see where they can find safety, where their habitat, where their children will be mostly looked after and educated. Where is the health situation is going to be better, because sometimes going back, for example, to Iraq, there is no security.
Of course.
Or the health services over there are still not to the standard that we can rely upon.
Exactly.
And the financial situation again here. So all of these aspects, specifically the aspects of education and the welfare of the children, and also the fact that you are able to practice your religion or your belief in the best of manners. Sometimes some people migrate from one place to another, but they are not able to practice their religion in the best of ways.
We are actually very fortunate in Britain compared to some European countries, very strict with Islamic practice. But
and sorry to stop you there. There are some individuals who moved from some European countries to come and live in the UK because of the fact that they were not able to practice their religion properly, or they did not have that immediate community to be part of. Because the community here in the UK, for example, was a bigger community. There were more centers. There were much more movement Islamically than back home.
I know in a previous morning we discussed how the first generation have set up mosques, but God bless them for doing that, so that our youth have been able to continue and hold programs. So that generation did amazing stuff coming here. But again, like you said, there is a life we've built here, and there's I mean, personally, as a child of immigrants, I don't have an affiliation to back home. The thinking is different, the lifestyle is different, so it's very difficult to even visit and accustom yourself. But what I wanted to ask really is that, while I remember seeing this comment on social media a while ago, and somebody from one of the holy cities said that blessed am I that I can visit the shrine of Imam Hussein on a Thursday and be there every day, but you poor people in the West have no access to these shrines. And how do you live your life without the presence of the Imams in your life? And it really got me thinking, who is the better off? I mean, is somebody here yearning to be with Imam Hussein in a better position, or is he in a better position because he's there in close vicinity?
There are ups and downs. There are good points, advantages and disadvantages of being away, and not being able to visit, for example, Imam Hussein on a Thursday night, as mu'minin do when they are in Karbala. But what eases things is that we have our local community centers where we get together. We try to create that atmosphere that was there, or it is there in Karbala on a Thursday night, for example, or on a Friday, where everyone comes together. I mean, of course, I don't want to say the majority, but there are a minute number of individuals that even in Karbala and Najaf or other holy cities, they don't take the full advantage of them being next to or neighbors of these holy shrines. But there are vice versa. There are individuals who live in the UK here who visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam on a Thursday night, who recite the dua, the ziyarah, more than those, for example, minute, as I said, minute individuals who actually go and visit Imam Hussein, for example, maybe once every 2 weeks or once every month. So it all falls upon the person. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go and visit Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. We should. I mean, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they always push their followers to not neglect visiting Ahlul Bayt, not because visiting them specifically gives the rewards and has the rewards, but also for us not to lose that connection with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which will have its fingerprints on our lives.
You don't want to take for granted, because a lot of people who are in Karbala take for granted that they have access to the Imams. And sometimes, I was just discussing with Zahra off air, isn't it, if I was to visit, well not visit, if I do the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on a Thursday, away from Iraq, let's just say in our local centers, is the deeds or the a'mal greater in the eyes of Allah because I'm so far away, yet I'm not forgetting my Imam, than the person who actually goes there and is in Karbala themselves?
There is those who are in Karbala and inside the shrine of Imam Hussein, visiting Imam Hussein, they receive the specific thawab that Allah has set for them. And for that individual who is far away, that goes under the sky and faces towards Karbala and 3 times places his hand on his heart and says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, he himself, he has a different type of reward. Why? Because he has all the fact that he is all the way far away from Karbala, but he still remembers Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Allah will give him maybe double the reward of someone who is just in front of Imam Hussein or standing in the shrine. And we have many examples, many stories of individuals who used to do that every day. They used to go on the rooftops of their houses, face Karbala, and salute Imam Hussein alayhi salam, where Imam Hussein alayhi salam came and visited them 3 times on the night of their burial in the cemetery. So Ahlul Bayt have occupied for that. They know that there will be a time where Ahlul Bayt themselves, they couldn't stay in Medina, or they couldn't have continued their lives in the holy cities. They were forced to run away and save their lives to go in very far away distant areas from their homeland countries. So they know that their Shia, their followers will face the same situation, and Allah and Ahlul Bayt have occupied for that they are able to practice their religion and practice the ziyarah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam from a far away distance, and they still get the thawab and the reward.
So we've got come to the couple of minutes to the end. A personal question to you. You originate from a holy city yourself.
From Kerala.
How is it for you when you go back home compared to living here? Obviously family commitments, we have those, but from a personal perspective.
Well, I remember the first time after the fall of the
previous regime,
the Ba'athi regime and the political system run by Saddam Hussein, I accompanied my father. And because my father from a young age, he was actually born in Karbala. And he, from a young age, he was forced to leave Karbala. So he was, we were going around the roads and the streets and the alleyways, and he used to explain to me, and that was amazing. Just such a unique experience that, wow, try to take myself like 50 or 60 or more years back to see my father. I grew up here, I played here, this is where my father's shop was, this is where I used to go every day and come. It was a unique experience. I mean, for that 3 months that we spent going around Karbala and visiting Imam Hussein, it was a very beautiful experience. But then, when I went back again with my family, it wasn't as bad. I mean, but I couldn't see myself in that current climate, in that current situation where there is no political, there was political unrest and the financial situation wasn't sorted. I don't know where my kids are going to go to school, or the health situation. For the time being, I can't see myself moving back. Although there were individuals who they were happy for their children. They grew up, they can live here, they can continue their lives, but they decided, I'll take the hands of my wife and go back and live there. I have a home, I can live, and my friends and family are there. But for the siblings, it's a very tricky, very difficult decision to make.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
It's always a pleasure to have you say it.
Yep.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
No, thank you.
Brings us to a close. Any further thoughts, Sarah?
No.
On that note, once again, just to echo the words of the Sayyid, we congratulate you on the birth of the awaited Savior Imam Mahdi Ajallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif. And inshallah we'll see you in the next episodes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.